In today's episode, we're diving into 5 tragic stories of animal attacks in Florida. From a lion keeper whose emotional bond couldn't protect her from natural instincts, to a shark feeder whose exhaustion led to a fatal encounter with a bull shark. But first, let's begin with the first story, where love for an animal became a deadly miscalculation. It was March 15, 2016, and the late afternoon sun was casting long shadows across Big Cat Rescue in Tampa, Florida. The sanctuary sprawled across 67 acres of carefully maintained habitats, each designed to provide rescued big cats with as natural an environment as possible. The air was thick with humidity and the musky scent of large predators, while the distant sounds of roars and chuffs echoed through the Spanish moss-draped oak trees. Maria Gonzalez had been walking these paths for 6 years, and at 29 she'd found her calling caring for some of the world's most dangerous animals. She'd started as a volunteer after college, drawn by the sanctuary's mission to rescue big cats from circuses, roadside zoos, and private owners who could no longer care for them. Her dedication had quickly earned her a full-time position as a senior keeper, specializing in the care of lions and tigers. Recently, Maria's personal life had been in turmoil. A difficult breakup 3 months earlier had left her emotionally drained, and she'd been throwing herself into her work with even greater intensity. Her colleagues had noticed her staying later, taking on extra shifts, and spending more time than necessary with the animals. For Maria, the sanctuary had become both workplace and refuge. Her favorite charge was Caesar, a magnificent 420-pound African lion rescued from a defunct circus 2 years earlier. Maria had been part of his rehabilitation team, helping him overcome the psychological trauma of years in captivity. She'd watched him transform from a nervous, pacing animal into a confident predator who ruled his spacious enclosure with quiet dignity. African lions are apex predators that retain all their wild instincts regardless of captivity or human contact. Adult males can weigh up to 500 pounds and possess bite forces exceeding 650 pounds per square inch. During mating season or when territorial disputes arise, even hand-raised lions become unpredictable and extremely dangerous. Their powerful jaws can crush a human skull in seconds, while their razor-sharp claws can inflict devastating wounds with a single swipe. That evening, Maria was conducting the final feeding rounds, a routine she'd performed hundreds of times. The sanctuary had strict protocols requiring 2 keepers present during any interaction with big cats, but Maria had been bending this rule lately, especially with Caesar. She genuinely believed their bond transcended normal keeper-animal relationships, and Caesar had never shown her any aggression. What Maria didn't realize was that Caesar's behavior had been subtly changing over the past week. A new female lion had been introduced to an enclosure within sight and scent of his territory, triggering his mating instincts and increasing his territorial aggression. The signs were there: increased pacing, scent marking, and vocalizations, but Maria's emotional attachment had clouded her professional judgment. Maria unlocked Caesar's enclosure and stepped inside carrying his evening meal of raw beef. The lion approached with his usual confident stride, but something in his posture was different. His ears were slightly flattened, his tail twitched with agitation, and his amber eyes held an intensity Maria had never seen before. As Maria bent to place the meat bucket on the ground, Caesar's predatory instincts exploded into action. Without warning, the massive lion lunged forward, his powerful jaws clamping down on Maria's throat with crushing force. His canine teeth, each over 2 inches long, punched through skin and muscle, severing her carotid artery and crushing her windpipe instantly. Maria's scream was cut short, as Caesar's bite destroyed her ability to breathe or call for help. The lion's powerful jaw muscles contracted, ensuring the kill was swift and complete. Maria's body went limp within seconds, as her brain was deprived of oxygen and blood. Caesar released his grip and began displaying typical feeding behavior, treating Maria's body as prey. His natural instincts had completely overridden years of conditioning and human contact. The lion settled beside his kill, occasionally licking at the wounds while maintaining the alert posture of a predator guarding his meal. Maria's absence wasn't noticed until 45 minutes later when she failed to respond to radio calls. A search team found Caesar in his enclosure, standing protectively over Maria's lifeless body. The lion showed no aggression toward the rescue team, but remained alert and defensive of what he now considered his territory and prey. Veterinarians successfully tranquilized Caesar, but the decision was made to euthanize him due to the severity of the incident and the risk he now posed to other staff members. Maria was pronounced dead at the scene, her injuries consistent with a fatal lion attack. Big Cat Rescue faced intense scrutiny from regulatory agencies and implemented stricter safety protocols. Maria's family filed no lawsuit, understanding that she had violated established safety procedures. Her memorial service was attended by hundreds of animal welfare advocates who remembered her dedication to big cat conservation. While Maria's emotional bond with Caesar couldn't save her, Jake Thompson's showmanship led him into the jaws of a massive alligator. It was August 22, 2014, and the Florida heat was oppressive at Gatorland in Orlando, with temperatures soaring into the mid-90s and humidity making the air feel thick as soup. The famous alligator attraction was bustling with tourists, eager to see feeding demonstrations and wrestling shows featuring some of North America's largest reptiles. In the main lagoon, dozens of American alligators basked motionlessly in the sun, their prehistoric forms creating an intimidating display of raw predatory power. Jake Thompson was 35 and had built his reputation as one of Florida's most fearless gator wrestlers. For 12 years, he'd been performing death-defying stunts that left audiences gasping and reaching for their cameras. Jake took pride in his ability to read alligator behavior and handle even the most dangerous specimens with apparent ease, earning him the nickname Gator Jake among tourists and colleagues alike. Recently, however, Jake's life had been falling apart. His divorce 6 months earlier had left him financially devastated, and he'd been struggling to keep up with alimony payments and legal fees. The stress had driven him to drink more heavily, and his colleagues had noticed him taking increasingly dangerous risks during shows to generate bigger tips and more audience excitement. That afternoon, Jake was scheduled to perform a private demonstration for a corporate group celebrating a successful business deal. The executives had paid premium rates for an exclusive show, and Jake was determined to give them something they'd never forget. He'd been drinking since lunch, though not enough to be obviously intoxicated, just enough to dull his usually sharp instincts. American alligators are apex predators that have remained virtually unchanged for millions of years. Adult males can reach lengths of 14 feet and weigh over 1,000 pounds, with bite forces exceeding 3,000 pounds per square inch, among the strongest of any living animal. They're ambush predators with lightning-fast reflexes, capable of snapping their jaws shut in 50 milliseconds. Even experienced handlers can be killed instantly if they misjudge an alligator's mood or positioning. The star of Jake's demonstration was Brutus, a massive 13-foot alligator weighing approximately 800 pounds. Brutus had been at Gatorland for over a decade, captured from the wild after becoming a nuisance in residential areas. Despite years in captivity, he retained all his predatory instincts and had never fully adapted to human presence. Jake began his presentation with standard wrestling moves, demonstrating how to control an alligator's jaws and position its body for safety. The corporate executives watched in fascination as he explained alligator biology and behavior while maintaining physical control over the massive reptile. But Jake could sense the audience wanted more excitement. Against his better judgment and facility protocols, Jake decided to perform his most dangerous stunt, placing his head inside Brutus's mouth. It was a trick he'd performed hundreds of times, but it required perfect timing, precise positioning, and complete sobriety. The alcohol in his system had dulled his reflexes just enough to make the stunt potentially fatal. Jake positioned himself beside Brutus's massive head, using his hands to hold the alligator's jaws open. The corporate executives leaned forward with their phones ready, eager to capture the death-defying moment. Jake slowly lowered his head toward the alligator's gaping maw, his movement slightly unsteady from the alcohol. Brutus had been growing increasingly agitated throughout the demonstration, The noise from the excited crowd, combined with Jake's uncharacteristic clumsiness, had triggered the alligator's defensive instincts. As Jake's head entered his mouth, Brutus's prehistoric brain registered a threat and reacted with explosive violence. The alligator's jaws snapped shut with the force of a hydraulic press, crushing Jake's skull instantly. The sound of breaking bone echoed across the demonstration area as Brutus's massive jaw muscles contracted. Jake's body convulsed once before going completely limp. His life ended in a fraction of a second. But Brutus wasn't finished. The 800-pound predator began the death roll that makes his species so deadly, spinning his massive body in the shallow water while maintaining his grip on Jake's head. The rotational force tore Jake's body apart, separating his head from his torso in a display of raw predatory power. The corporate executives screamed in horror as their entertainment became a nightmare. Blood clouded the water around Brutus as he continued his death roll, following instincts that have served his species for millions of years. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, but there was nothing they could do except recover the pieces of Jake's remains. Brutus was eventually tranquilized and secured, showing no unusual aggression beyond his natural feeding response. Jake was pronounced dead at the scene, though little remained of his body after the alligator's assault. The investigation revealed that Jake had violated safety protocols by performing the head-in-mouth stunt while intoxicated. Gatorland faced intense scrutiny and temporarily suspended all wrestling demonstrations. New safety measures were implemented, including mandatory sobriety testing for performers and elimination of the most dangerous stunts. Brutus was relocated to a secure facility away from public demonstrations. Jake's memorial service was attended by fellow performers and tourists whose lives he'd touched through his educational shows. His ex-wife established a fund for children's wildlife education, hoping Jake's passion for reptiles might inspire others to study and protect them safely. Jake's showmanship proved fatal with the alligator, but Dr. Sarah Chen's research ambitions led her into a chimpanzee's violent territory. It was June 8, 2017, and the morning air at Monkey Jungle in Miami was already thick with humidity and the sounds of chattering primates. The facility, established in 1933, sprawled across 30 acres of natural hammock where visitors could observe various primate species in semi-natural environments. In the chimpanzee habitat, the morning feeding had just concluded, and the apes were settling into their typical post-meal routine. Dr. Sarah Chen was 41 and at a critical juncture in her academic career. A respected primatologist with a PhD in animal psychology, she'd been conducting behavioral research at Monkey Jungle for 2 years, studying how captive chimpanzees adapted their social structures to artificial environments. Her work had already contributed to improved husbandry practices at facilities worldwide, but she was under intense pressure to publish groundbreaking research that would secure her tenure at the university. Sarah's scientific background had given her confidence that bordered on arrogance when it came to understanding primate behavior. She believed her academic training made her safer than regular keepers, often dismissing their practical experience in favor of her theoretical knowledge. This attitude had created tension with facility staff, who worried about her increasingly bold research methods. The focus of Sarah's current study was Kong, a magnificent 180-pound adult male chimpanzee in his prime. At 15 years old, Kong was the dominant male of his troop and displayed all the complex behaviors that made chimpanzees such fascinating subjects for behavioral research. Sarah had been documenting his social interactions and communication patterns, believing she was on the verge of a breakthrough discovery. Chimpanzees are humanity's closest relatives, sharing 98% of our DNA, but that similarity makes them more dangerous, not less. Adult males can weigh up to 200 pounds and possess the strength of 5 grown men. They have long, powerful arms, opposable thumbs, and canine teeth designed for tearing flesh. In the wild, they live in complex social hierarchies maintained through displays of dominance and occasional extreme violence. Captive chimps often develop behavioral problems as they mature, becoming unpredictable and potentially lethal. That morning, Sarah noticed what she interpreted as unusual calm in Kong's behavior. The massive chimp was sitting quietly in a corner of the enclosure, occasionally grooming himself but showing none of his typical dominance displays. To Sarah's academic eye, this seemed like the perfect opportunity to observe him at close range without the distraction of other staff members. What Sarah failed to recognize were the subtle signs that Kong was actually in a state of heightened sexual arousal and territorial aggression. His seemingly calm demeanor masked dangerous instincts that her theoretical training hadn't prepared her to identify. The chimp's posture, facial expressions, and vocalizations all indicated potential violence, but Sarah's academic confidence blinded her to the warning signs. Sarah unlocked the enclosure door and stepped into Kong's territory, carrying her observation notebook and a small video camera. The habitat was spacious and naturalistic, with climbing structures and dense vegetation that provided hiding spots and enrichment for the chimpanzees. She positioned herself about 10 feet from Kong, believing this distance provided adequate safety. Kong's reaction was immediate and terrifying. The massive chimp's calm demeanor vanished as his territorial instincts exploded into action. He launched himself at Sarah with shocking speed, his powerful arms reaching out to grab her before she could react or retreat. Kong's first blow caught Sarah across the face, his knuckles striking with enough force to shatter her cheekbone and knock her to the ground. Before she could scream or defend herself, the chimp was on top of her, his massive hands grabbing her arms and head with crushing strength. The chimpanzee's attack was methodical and brutal. He bit off 3 of Sarah's fingers, his canine teeth shearing through bone and tendon with ease. His powerful hands beat her about the head and shoulders while his feet kicked at her torso, each blow delivered with the strength of 5 men. Sarah's screams echoed through the facility as Kong continued his assault, driven by instincts that millions of years of evolution had hardwired into his brain. He grabbed her hair and slammed her head against the concrete floor repeatedly, causing massive skull fractures and brain trauma. Other staff members heard Sarah's cries and rushed to the chimpanzee habitat, but they couldn't safely enter the enclosure while Kong remained in this violent frenzy. The chimp showed no signs of stopping his attack, treating Sarah as both an intruder in his territory and a threat to his dominance. Veterinarians arrived with tranquilizer equipment and successfully sedated Kong after several terrifying minutes. Sarah was rushed to the facility's medical area, but her injuries were catastrophic. She had suffered massive head trauma, multiple fractures, and severe blood loss from the bite wounds. Paramedics worked frantically to stabilize Sarah, but the damage was too extensive. She died from her injuries before she could be transported to the hospital, her groundbreaking research ending in the most violent way possible. The investigation revealed that Sarah had violated multiple safety protocols by entering the chimpanzee enclosure alone during a period when Kong was displaying signs of sexual and territorial aggression. Monkey Jungle implemented stricter research guidelines and mandatory safety observers for all primate interactions. Kong was relocated to a specialized facility for chimpanzees that had attacked humans, despite arguments from primatologists that he had acted according to natural dominance behaviors. The incident sparked renewed debate about the ethics of using great apes in research and entertainment. Sarah's memorial service was attended by colleagues from around the world who remembered her contributions to primate research, even as they acknowledged that her academic arrogance had ultimately led to her death. Her family established a scholarship fund for graduate students studying animal behavior, hoping her passion for understanding primates might inspire others to pursue safer research methods. Sarah's research ambitions proved fatal in the chimp habitat, but Frank Morrison's retirement sentiment led him into a tiger's deadly farewell. It was October 14, 2015, and the autumn air at Dade City's Wild Things was crisp and clear, a welcome relief from Florida's typical oppressive humidity. The facility specialized in exotic animal enclosures and educational programs, housing everything from tigers and lions to bears and primates across its sprawling grounds. In the big cat section, the afternoon feeding had just concluded, and the predators were settling into their post-meal routines. Frank Morrison was 58 and facing the end of an era. After 25 years working with big cats, he was just days away from retirement, looking forward to a quiet life with his wife and grandchildren. Frank had built his reputation on an impeccable safety record. Never a serious injury, never a close call that couldn't be handled with experience and calm judgment. His colleagues respected him as one of the most skilled big cat trainers in the business, and he took immense pride in that reputation. This final week had been emotional for Frank. He'd been saying goodbye to animals he'd worked with for years, each farewell carrying the weight of decades spent building relationships with some of the world's most dangerous predators. His favorite was Sasha, a magnificent 350-pound Siberian tiger he'd raised from a 6-month-old cub. Now 8 years old, she represented the pinnacle of his career, a perfect example of trust between human and predator. Frank had been planning this final visit with Sasha for weeks, wanting to say a proper goodbye to the animal that had meant so much to his career. He'd watched her grow from a playful cub into a magnificent predator, and their bond felt unbreakable. What Frank didn't realize was that his emotional state and the disruption to normal routines had been affecting Sasha's behavior in subtle but dangerous ways. Siberian tigers are the largest cats in the world, with females weighing over 400 pounds and possessing strength that can crush bone with a single bite. Even hand-raised tigers retain all their predatory instincts and can become unpredictable when their routines are disrupted or when they sense emotional distress in their handlers. Their powerful jaws can exert over 1,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, easily capable of severing a human spinal cord. Frank unlocked Sasha's enclosure and stepped inside, violating the retirement protocols that prohibited unsupervised contact with dangerous animals. He approached the tiger with the confidence of someone who'd done this thousands of times, speaking softly in the gentle tone he'd always used with her. Sasha looked up from her resting spot, her amber eyes tracking Frank's movement with predatory focus. Something in her posture was different, more alert, more tense than usual. The disruption to her routine, combined with Frank's emotional state, had triggered stress responses that even his experienced eye failed to recognize. As Frank knelt beside Sasha for what he intended as a final bonding moment, the tiger's instincts overrode years of conditioning. Without warning, she lunged forward, her massive jaws clamping down on Frank's neck with crushing force. Her canine teeth punched through vertebrae and major arteries, severing his spinal cord instantly. Frank's body went limp as Sasha maintained her grip, her powerful jaw muscles ensuring that kill was complete. The tiger released him after several seconds and stepped back, her predatory instincts fully engaged. Frank lay motionless on the enclosure floor, his retirement dreams ended in the most violent way possible. Frank's body was discovered by the morning shift, with Sasha standing guard over what she now considered her territory. The tiger showed aggressive behavior toward the rescue team, forcing them to use tranquilizer darts before they could recover Frank's remains. The investigation confirmed that Frank had violated safety protocols by entering the enclosure alone. Dade City's wild things faced regulatory scrutiny but avoided criminal charges. Sasha was relocated to another facility, deemed too dangerous to remain at a public attraction. Frank's funeral was attended by hundreds of animal trainers and wildlife professionals who remembered his dedication and expertise. His family established a safety training program emphasizing the importance of following protocols regardless of experience level. Frank's sentimental farewell proved fatal with the tiger, but Marcus Rodriguez's exhaustion led him into a bull shark's deadly domain. It was December 3rd, 2013, and the Florida Aquarium in Tampa was preparing for another busy day of educational programs and public exhibits. The facility's crown jewel was a massive 500,000-gallon shark tank that housed several species of dangerous predators, including bull sharks, sand tiger sharks, and various rays. The crystal clear waters provided visitors with an unobstructed view of these magnificent predators as they glided through their artificial ocean environment. Marcus Rodriguez was 27 and living his dream as a marine biologist and dive specialist. He'd been feeding the sharks in the main tank for 4 years, developing a reputation for his calm demeanor underwater and his ability to work safely around some of the ocean's most dangerous predators. Recently engaged to his college sweetheart, Marcus had been working extra shifts to save money for their upcoming wedding. The demanding schedule was taking its toll on Marcus. He'd been pulling double shifts for weeks, often working 12-hour days that left him exhausted and less alert than usual. His colleagues had noticed his fatigue, but trusted his experience and professionalism to keep him safe during the dangerous feeding dives. That morning, Marcus was scheduled for a routine feeding dive in the main shark tank. The process required entering the water in a protective chainmail suit while carrying buckets of fish to distribute among the various species. Standard protocol required a buddy system with 2 divers working together, but Marcus had been assigned to work alone due to staffing shortages. Bull sharks are among the ocean's most dangerous predators, known for their aggressive feeding behavior and unpredictable nature. They can grow up to 11 feet long and weigh over 500 pounds, with bite forces exceeding 1,300 pounds per square inch. Unlike many shark species, bull sharks are opportunistic feeders that will attack almost anything they perceive as potential prey, making them extremely dangerous to work around. The star of the tank was Luna, a 9-foot female bull shark known for her aggressive feeding behavior and territorial nature. Luna had been at the aquarium for 3 years, captured after becoming a threat to swimmers in Tampa Bay. Despite years in captivity, she retained all her predatory instincts and had never fully adapted to human presence in her environment. Marcus began this pre-dive equipment check, but his exhaustion caused him to miss a critical detail. His protective chainmail suit had several damaged links that created gaps in the armor, exposing portions of his torso and arms to potential attack. In his fatigued state, he failed to notice these vulnerabilities that could prove fatal underwater. Marcus entered the shark tank carrying buckets of fish, his movements slower and less coordinated than usual due to exhaustion. The other sharks in the tank, sand tigers and nurse sharks, showed their typical calm behavior around the familiar diver. But Luna immediately detected something different about this feeding session. The bull shark's acute senses picked up the scent of fish blood seeping through the gaps in Marcus's damaged chainmail suit. Her predatory instincts were triggered by this unusual stimulus, and she began circling Marcus with increasing interest and aggression. Marcus was distributing fish to the sand tiger sharks when Luna struck without warning. The massive bull shark launched herself at Marcus with explosive speed, her powerful jaws clamping down on his exposed arm and torso. Her razor-sharp teeth tore through the gaps in his chainmail, inflicting deep lacerations that immediately began bleeding profusely. Luna's attack triggered a feeding frenzy response as the scent of human blood filled the water. The bull shark thrashed violently, her powerful body generating tremendous force as she tried to tear away pieces of her prey. Marcus's screams were muffled by his diving equipment as Luna's teeth raked across his chest and arms. Other divers in the facility's backup team rushed to the tank, but entering the water during a shark attack was extremely dangerous. They could only watch in horror as Luna continued her assault, her predatory instincts fully engaged by the taste and scent of blood. Marcus's struggles grew weaker as blood loss and shock overwhelmed his system. Luna maintained her grip on his torso, shaking her massive head the way sharks do when feeding on large prey. The bull shark's attack lasted less than 2 minutes, but the damage was catastrophic. Emergency responders finally managed to distract Luna long enough to pull Marcus from the tank, but his injuries were too severe. He had lost massive amounts of blood from multiple bite wounds, and his internal organs had been severely damaged by the shark's powerful jaws. Marcus was rushed to Tampa General Hospital, but he died from his injuries before surgeons could stabilize him. The investigation revealed the damaged chainmail suit and the violation of buddy system protocols that had left Marcus vulnerable to attack. The Florida Aquarium faced intense scrutiny from regulatory agencies and implemented comprehensive safety reforms. Luna was relocated to a research facility where she could be studied without posing a threat to divers or the public. Marcus's funeral was attended by marine biologists and aquarium professionals from across the country who remembered his dedication to shark conservation and education. His fiancée established a scholarship fund for students pursuing careers in marine biology, hoping Marcus's passion for ocean conservation might inspire others to study and protect these magnificent predators safely. Thanks for watching. Just when you think years of experience and emotional bonds can protect us from wild animals, we're just getting started. Click the next video for stories that will show you why animal professionals can never truly tame the wild.